All right.
Might be an interesting story.
Welcome to the, I guess you can hear me, can't you? Welcome to the October session of the regular meeting of the Opelika Planning Commission. Commissioners, if you would, let's somebody make a motion on the last month's meeting.
Make a motion that be approved, minutes be approved.
Yeah. Any discussion or concerns about them? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? And I abstain. Motion carries. Matt, do you have anything on the last updates of previous meetings?
No, sir. The one rezoning that is relevant to tonight is the 4 acres on 1201 South Fox Run, which is the site of the conditional use for the RV sales center, and that was approved by City Council at their last council meeting.
Okay. Today there are several items on the agenda that call for a public meeting or a public hearing. I'm sorry. If you have any concerns or want to speak to us about any of those items, come to the podium located on your right over here. And remember that you're allowed 5 minutes, and that's it. Matt, let's go ahead and get started with first item.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Commissioners. The first item on your agenda is a request for preliminary and final plat approval for the Darden family subdivision at Somerset subdivision. This is 793 Albright Road. Excuse me. The applicant is Rodney and Chandra Darden, represented by James McCrory. Subject property is zoned R1. It's in the kind of the extreme north part of the city limits. Excuse me. And so what you'll see here is the applicant is wanting to divide this just over 10-acre piece of property into 3 lots. And you'll notice most easily, I think, is the fact that lots 3B and 3C don't have current road frontage. This is part of a family subdivision, which means the applicant is transferring the property from themselves to an immediate family member. As such, under state code, this is not viewed as a typical subdivision, and so does not have to meet all the city requirements as far as access and other things may go. So they do show a access easement going all the way back across the property to go back through to lots 3B and 3C through lot 3A in the adjacent property. With that, we do recommend preliminary and final plat approval subject to the following: that all lots are to be owned by immediate family members. No lot within the subdivision shall be further subdivided without consent of the Opelika Planning Commission. Add a special note to the product on the bottom of the plat to each deed for lots 3A, 3B, and 3C. No further subdivisions of 3A, 3B, 3C with the intent to sell the lot to outside the immediate family until lots front on a public street improved to city standards. Lots 3A, 3B, and 3C must have public street built to city standards if it is sold to outside the immediate family. Only 1 dwelling per lot shall be permitted as required in the R1 zone, and the building permit for a dwelling must not be issued to a person that is not in the Darden immediate family. The engineering department notes that this meets all their plat requirements of the subdivision public works manual and recommends preliminary and final plat approval. Opelika Utilities does not serve this subdivision. It would be provided by private well, and the subdivision is outside the Opelika Power Services territory. Mr. Darden and Mr. McCrory are both here today representing this case if you have any questions of them.
This item is open for a public hearing. Do we have anyone that would like to speak? Public hearing is now closed. Commissioners,
I move for preliminary and final plat approval
Second.
any discussion?
with staff recommendations.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 2.
Item 2 is one that was tabled at your last month's meeting. This is the Hartbrook subdivision. This is a request for preliminary approval. It's located in the northwest corner of the intersection of Veterans Parkway and Academy Drive. The applicant is Brandon Hayes, representing David E. Goolsby. Currently, the property is undeveloped and has a C2 with Gateway Corridor primary overlay on it. The applicant's requesting preliminary plat approval for a 61-lot townhome subdivision. Overall, the lot is 19.79 acres. However, the townhome development, as you'll see here, is kind of subjugated to the lower roughly 5 acres here. The proposal shows 58 townhome lots. I believe you'll see here on the close-up of that on sheet 2. I'm sorry. The lots meet or exceed the minimum 1,800 square foot size and 20-foot width for townhouse development. Most of the lots are around 2,040 square feet with 24-foot width. The applicant has stated that they plan to make them relatively similar to the ones directly across Academy Drive that were approved and built about 2 years ago. We did note that there was some inconsistency with the landscape buffer between the site plan and the conditional use plan, or the site plan and the subdivision drawing, and noted that that needed to be required. And then we did recommend preliminary approval subject to the following: that all utilities be underground. Note who will maintain the common areas and provide a lot number for this space, which they have done. Show a rear 5-foot access easement, which is noted through a note. Ensure the buffers correspond with the required buffers and match the site plan. There was a notation about some of the lots not closing completely, which I think they've taken care of. And then note the right-of-way being dedicated to the city of Opelika, which was along Academy Drive and discussed as part of a street improvement project there, or for further development. The engineering department states that the developer will be required to submit an infrastructure construction and grading plan for the drainage, utility, and post-construction detention roadway. Once this is all done, they will issue the applicable land disturbance permit. The access to this will be on private roadways internally and not maintained by the city of Opelika. And the engineering department does not have any other comments and concerns and recommends preliminary plat approval. Opelika Utilities reports that water service is accessible to the subdivision by water mains in the right-of-way of Veterans Parkway and Academy Drive. And Opelika Power Services reports that this is in their territory. The applicant is represented here today, I believe, by Mr. Hayes and Mr. Goolsby, and then Mr. Brett Baskin with Foresight Engineering. But we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
This item is also open for a public hearing. Do we have anyone that would like to speak? Public hearing is now closed. Commissioners,
Make a motion for preliminary approval with staff recommendation.
any discussion?
Yes, how big are these townhomes going? How big are these townhomes going to be?
In regards to square footage,
Yes.
they're roughly 24 by 50 footprints for the first floor. So there's still some discussion if these are going to be all single-story units or two-story units, but that the first floor footprint that we're showing is 50 by 24.
So they won't be the size of the ones across the street?
They're pretty similar in size to those.
What does pretty similar mean?
Across the street, the end units across the street are one-story units, And then the interior units are two-story units. So we're showing the same first floor footprint as those. And so we're still working through on the demographics in regards to, in the market study, on whether these will be one-story or two-story units. But it'll be, you know, similar in size and look to what is across the street there.
But they would not be smaller,
These are not smaller, no. It's the same footprint
okay?
in regards to length and width of the first story.
The 24 by 50 would be about a 1,200 square foot first floor. And so if they had a second floor, you'd assume that that would be
Same thing.
either that, sometimes about half the size, so somewhere probably in the range of 1,800 square feet. to
Any
2,000.
further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 3.
Item 3 is the conditional use for the previous item. Again, this is in northwest corner of Veterans and Academy Drive. The applicant is proposing to construct, again, 58-unit townhome development on 5.25 acres with, I believe it's 10 buildings, and the setbacks shown here, it meets the setbacks, but it could actually meet the gateway corridor setbacks here, which would allow them to be reduced slightly, although that's not required here. The development will not take direct access off Veterans Parkway. It has an access point off of Academy Drive. The applicant is proposing for these to be fee simple ownership, which would mean that they would divide these off of the internal parking and driveway aisles, which we do allow in the city of Opelika. They would have to designate the common areas to a townhome association or a homeowners association that would be responsible for maintenance and repair of all those common areas, including the access drives and parking areas. The lots in here range, like I said, they're typically around 24 feet, although they do range in size slightly from about 2,000 to 2,600 square feet. They do meet the minimum requirements for the 50% open space or yard for the main floor, either behind or in front. Most of these show a yard behind the actual building. The density for this project is approximately 11 dwelling units per acre, which is slightly above what's across the street at Eagle Townhomes, which is 9.75 units per acre. The mobile home park across the street is about 7 units an acre, and then behind here in the estates, you're looking at about 4.5 units per acre. So it's it's comparable to the townhomes across the street, but it is more dense than some of the other developments. However, but located where it is, I think that makes some sense based on the amount of traffic that's located on Veterans Parkway. They did not submit a elevation plan, but have basically said that they intend to mirror the again, the development which is across the street, which does meet our gateway corridor requirements. They should have, we note they should have fencing consistent across all the lots, and the dumpsters should be screened with materials compatible to the buildings. We do have a landscape plan, which is here. What you'll notice is there's heavy landscaping, again, along Academy Drive, heavy landscaping across Veterans Parkway, and then you see the required landscaping and buffer yard along the residential lots back to the west. It stops about halfway up where the site meets the detention pond for the residential development to the west here. And so we didn't feel like it was necessary for them to buffer against the detention pond, which isn't really used as an amenity for the adjacent neighborhood. We do recommend we do recommend conditional use approval of this, subject to the following: that the materials meet the proposed gateway corridor requirements. All fencing should be uniform and standard. This may be set by the homeowners association. Units should be offset, meeting the zoning ordinance requirements. The buffer yard needs to be shown consistent between the site plan and the subdivision plat. A revised landscape plan meeting all the requirements should be submitted. The lots are also required to have the 5-foot access strip along the rear of each property, which was shown on the subdivision plat now. And then dumpsters should be screened with materials compatible to the building. The engineering department notes that they have no comments or concerns with the zoning with the conditional use, and recommend approval. A water service is accessible to this subdivision by water mains in the right-of-way of Veterans and Academy. And Opelika Power Services notes that this is in their territory. Again, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is represented here.
I have a question. You said it was 10 buildings?
Yes, ma'am. I think that has been modified slightly with the latest plan. Now you have actually 7 buildings. So they've kind of put 2 of the buildings together in the interior section right here.
Okay,
I apologize. That was from an original site plan and original staff report, and I didn't catch that change here.
Okay,
So this was originally, I think, 4 separate buildings, and now it's just 2 buildings.
all right. And the exterior is going to be
The
gateway?
exterior, they say will mirror what's across the street, which does meet the requirements. I believe that's largely hardy board, which is the cementitious cement, which meets our requirements.
This item is open for a public hearing. Do we have anyone that would like to speak? Public hearing is now closed. Commissioners. Need a motion.
Move for conditional use with staff recommendations.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 4.
Yes, sir. Item 4 is a conditional use for a commercial building, contractor building with outside storage. This is located just across the street from the last 2 items, 1033 Walker Gray Court. The applicant is Legend Evidals, representing Scott Heiss. The property is currently undeveloped. It's part of a commercial subdivision that the commission has approved previously and is zoned C3. So, like I said, this is just right across from where we're currently looking. The applicant is requesting conditional use approval to construct a commercial building warehouse with outside storage. The building specializes in underground utility construction, heavy equipment repair, and erosion control, earthwork, and other construction services. This property, although the front buildings are located in the gateway corridor, this back property is not in the gateway corridor here. The business expects to have 6 to 8 full-time employees and up to 18 temporary employees. We'll show you the building site plan here. You'll see a 3,000 square foot building on a 31,970 square foot lot. The building has parking in front with kind of an open bay that can open here towards the front. And then you'll have a covered area in the back. And then the back section back here will be largely gravel, where they'll store any equipment that they need to. This is a drawing kind of showing what the proposed building would look like. During the day, typically this site will not have any employees staying there working. Most of the employees will be out in the field day to day. They have submitted a landscape plan. Oh, here we go. And so you'll see they've shown a plan that meets our requirements, showing the both frontage materials, some landscape parking materials, and then buffer yards against the south and to the east, back towards the mobile home park behind it. The applicant is proposing to install a 6-foot-high chain link fence with slats and barbed wire along the side property lines here. There would be some outside lighting that will have to meet the requirements for so that light does not spill onto adjacent property. And again, they would not have any barbed wire facing the frontage or back towards Walker Gray Court. Staff recommends conditional use approval of this, subject to the following: that outdoor lighting not exceed 1 foot candle per at the property line, and not installing barbed wire on the 2 sections of fence that are installed perpendicular to the building from the side property to the building, so these 2 sections. With that, we recommend conditional use approval. The engineering department notes that no additional site plan will be required for this application due to the size, and they have no concerns and recommend conditional use. Opelika Utilities reports that water service is accessible to this through the water main in Walker Gray Court. Opelika Power Services notes that this is in their territory. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Mr. Nettles is here representing the application.
The building in the back, how do you get to that? Will it be enclosed, or do you drive up to the side of it? But
I'll defer to the applicant here, but you can drive through this section right
Yes,
here.
There's a gate.
okay, okay.
There's a gate, and that's actually like a pole barn. It's not enclosed.
It's not enclosed, okay.
Yes, ma'am. So you go through the gate right there to get to the back, so they can monitor anybody going through.
Well, they've started construction, right?
Ma'am?
They've started construction.
Yes, ma'am, the site, the whole
Yeah,
subdivision,
okay.
yes, ma'am.
This item is open for a public hearing. Do we have anyone that would like to speak? Public hearing is now closed. Commissioners,
Make a motion for conditional use approval with staff recommendation.
any discussion?
Do you need to get a second?
Have you got it? I thought somebody said second.
Second.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
That's it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 5.
Yes, sir. Item 5 is a request for conditional use approval at 1201 South Fox Run Parkway. This is a recreation vehicle sales and campers. This is a request by David Slocum, representing David Shurinara. The applicant, or the property, as I mentioned before, was recently rezoned from C2 to C3 and is in the Gateway Corridor primary. This is the site of the former Harley-Davidson site. The applicant is requesting conditional use to sell and service recreation vehicles and campers. The property is approximately 4 acres with a 13,000 square foot building. You'll see the building here. And then there are some display areas and sales areas, inventory areas outside, both to the left and to the right of the building. Previously, this was, as I said, the Harley-Davidson dealership from 2002 to 2018. They sold all of their inventory primarily inside, which did not require conditional use approval because it's not outside sales primarily. This change does require that use approval, and so that's what they're here for today. The site has a maximum impervious surface of 70%, and so you see the 32,000 square foot area, asphalt area over here, which would now be used for inventory, for sales of RVs and campers. They have requested from ALDOT to clear some of the trees along the interstate in the right-of-way here. I'm not sure of the status of that permit. And then they're also showing an additional 13 trees being removed kind of sporadically through the area in the back, and they plan to kind of clean up some of the underbrush here in the back and then grass this area here. We have recommended, and they have shown on their landscape plan, some new landscaping along the frontage here on South Fox Run Parkway, shrubs and trees located along the frontage here in kind of by this inventory area to help soften the development. We are recommending conditional use approval subject to the following. The landscape be added adjacent to the asphalt inventory area shown on the revised landscape plan. Landscaping between the front property line of Fox Run Parkway and the asphalt along and along the western edge of the asphalt. And the RV and camper display storage area be limited to those areas designated for inventory area on the site plan, and having been requested by the applicant. So basically that they keep their inventory to the areas shown on this plan. Engineering department had no report. Opelika Utilities presently serves this location, and the subdivision is within the Opelika Power Services territory. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, and I'm not sure. Oh, yes, Mr. Slocum is here representing the applicant.
Just curious, how many RVs can fit on that?
I'd have to defer to the.
Okay. Just curious.
This item is open for a public hearing. Do we have anyone that would like to speak? Public hearing is now closed. Commissioners,
Did you want to speak, ma'am?
you want to speak? Come to the podium if you would, please, ma'am. And state your name and address.
Yeah.
My name is Dorothy Stringer, and I live at 22 Hammer Place. And I'm here regarding, I'm not sure if this is the right time or what, but I was told about this meeting. A subdivision, maybe in the Jeter area. I'm trying to think of the lady name. She works for Observer. Do you all have anything on today regarding a subdivision in the Jeter area?
No, ma'am, I don't think there's anything specific on the agenda today that talks about subdivision of property in Jeter area.
Okay, so
I can get your contact information, and we can try to figure out exactly what property you're talking about.
okay, I would like the contact information
Yes, ma'am.
because I'm interested in this particular project in the Jeter area.
Mhm.
And if you will, please get the contact information for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Matt, is that about a completely different?
I believe so, yes.
All right, well, look, just, if you would, come to the planning department, ma'am, or get in touch with the planning department with Matt in a few minutes, and he'll give you instructions on how to handle it, or you can get with Marty.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you'll speak to Mr. Ogren right here, we'll figure out exactly what.
Yeah. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Public hearing is now closed. Commissioners.
Make a motion for conditional use.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 6.
Item 6 is a request for final plat approval. This is Hidden Lakes Subdivision Phase 2 section. This is located on West Point Parkway and extends the neighborhood all the way from Sportsplex Parkway to West Point Parkway. The applicant is Blake Rice with Barrett Simpson, representing 280 Land Company, LLC. The subdivision is currently under a planned unit development, or PUD designation for zoning. What you'll see here is the applicant is requesting final plat approval for 66 lots, this area here. largely located along West Point Parkway and then connecting up to the existing section of the development. The lots range in size from 11,745 square feet to 25,705 square feet, and lot width from 60 to 85 feet along the front property line. There is a townhouse lot located here near West Point Parkway that was shown in the original planned unit development, which would probably likely be further subdivided at some point. We did note some landscape easements required near the rear property line to screen the townhouses from the major thoroughfare. Also noted that lot 72, which I believe is right here. Let me go to the bigger image, that'll help. So this lot 72 is shown as a common area here. And then you have lot 63, which is here, which touches the larger lake property, houses a 2,670 square foot chapel and event center with a small 760 square foot accessory structure on 1.2 acres. And then we did note that all these common areas are maintained and owned by the homeowners association, and this is located on the plat. We did recommend final plat approval subject to the following: that sidewalks be located on at least one side of the single-family home streets required in front of the townhome lot, and then on lot 63, the chapel and event center lot. The engineering department notes that the comments have been addressed. They did note that on this one, we are, this one we are awaiting the final bonds and the signs, and so any signatures would be held prior to those coming in if the Planning Commission grants final plat approval. Opelika Utilities notes that water service is available to this subdivision, and Opelika Power Services notes that this is outside their territory. There is
no public hearing on this item. Commissioners, I need a motion.
Move for final plat approval with staff recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 7.
Item 7 is final plat approval for a subdivision in the unincorporated Lee County in the planning jurisdiction. This is Sentinel Hills Phase 3. The applicant is Barrett Simpson Incorporated, representing Beulah Properties LLC, Stephen Corbett. The subject property, as I said, is in the planning jurisdiction located off of Lee Road 177, and this is an extension of the Sentinel Hills subdivision, which has been under development for some time. This is requesting final plat approval for a 14-lot subdivision, about 2 miles outside of the city limits. These would be single-family homes constructed on 13 lots, and then you have one large, likely future development lot located here to the south and to the east. The lots range from 26,000, the smallest, to the largest, which is 795 square feet. The lots all meet the minimum lot size for lots within the planning jurisdiction, and we recommend final plat approval. The engineering department notes that they have all the comments for the surveyor has been addressed. Stop signs and roadway signs need to be installed. Oh, everything is complete on this one, excuse me. And so they recommend final plat approval. Subdivision is in the Beulah Utility Service area, and the subdivision is outside of Opelika Power Services territory. And again, we recommend final plat approval of this.
Commissioners, there's no public hearing, so I need a motion.
Make a motion for final plat approval. staff recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 8.
Sir, item 8 is a final plat approval in the National Village subdivision. This is National Village Plat 1D, Section 2. This is located off Robert Trent Jones and Turkey Hill Circle. The applicant is Mike Marr, Precision Surveying, representing the Retirement Systems of Alabama. The subject property is in a PUD, and this is located within that section. They are requesting final plat approval for a 25-lot subdivision accessed from Turkey Hill Circle. Here you see the plat. The grayed out lots were ones that were previously in the same plat but have since received final plat because they already had existing roadway that they connected to. The lots range, from 19,931 square feet to approximately 70,406 square feet. The lots, based on the planned unit development, will have a 15-foot front, a 5-foot side, and a 10-foot rear setback. Lot 26, which is located in the center, staff had originally thought was intended to be a open space lot, but was not designated as such, and here they are showing it as a buildable lot, which is unique but not prohibited. The plat meets all the requirements for final plat and is in alignment with the master plan. We recommend final plat approval subject to the following. Note that parcel A is an open space or green space, and who will maintain that? That's this piece down here, this kind of small section right here. Install sidewalks on at least one side of all streets. There's a misplaced corner symbol that was intended to be at the southwest corner of lot 12. Missing corner symbol is at lot 19 and appears to be an extraneous corner within the transition radius of northwest corner of lot 22, survey comment. And then change the dates in the signature block. The engineering department notes that all the surveyor's comments have been addressed. They have inspected the construction and testing of the infrastructure, and note that all the infrastructure has been installed. We are awaiting street signs on this one and as-builts for this. But yes, so it's street signs and as-builts, I believe, were the final requirements for the engineering department, public works departments. The utilities department reports, Opelika Utilities reports that this is in the Salgahatchee Watershed Protection Area and meets the requirements for lots with sanitary service, sewer service. Water service is provided. And this subdivision, Opelika Power Services notes, is outside their power services territory. With that, we do recommend final plat approval subject to those comments, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
There's no public hearing, commissioners.
I move the final plat approval with staff recommendation.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Moving on to the rezoning section of your agenda. This is items 9A and 9B are requests to amend the future land use map and then rezone 6.2 acres of property. The property is located on Cunningham Drive in the 2000 block. It's just south of the railroad track crossing with Cunningham, adjacent to the new bridge that was recently repaired right through here on Pepperell Creek. The applicant is Jason Horn with Horn Brothers LLC. Currently the property is zoned R4 and they're requesting to go to C3. The property has a land use designation of medium density residential based on the R4 zoning designation, and so they would also request that it go from medium density residential to general commercial. As I said, this is located adjacent to the old Pepperell Mill manufacturing facility, and now this office, which is being used by Auburn University Math, Science, and Technology. You'll notice that there is C3 both to the west behind the property, and then back across Cunningham Drive to the east to the, I believe, the old holding ponds for West Point Pepperell. When we looked at this, there are two features I think that stand out on this property. One would be that the property, as you see kind of here shown, there are some easements here, but I think the most prominent feature of this is, if you look here, you'll notice that all except for this upper corner here along Cunningham Drive is within the FEMA floodplain. And so as the applicant works on a site plan, if this is approved or if this is not approved and they look at property under the current zoning, they would have to go through a study, a flood study, to determine how much property could be taken out of the floodplain here. And I think that would likely come back before you for any sort of conditional use or would have to go through the city's review process to ensure that it meets the requirements to be brought out of the floodplain. The second item, which that has been discussed recently at City Council, is this area is also under study for a future connection and extension of Veterans Parkway that would come down and touch Cunningham Drive just to the south of this property, and then would extend over to Thomason and out to Gateway Drive. This will likely show an increase in intensity, I think, in use and development on this stretch of Cunningham and through this whole section. And so we wanted to point that out to you as well. Based on all the factors and the existing future land use and the existing zoning to the adjacent to this property, we do recommend amending the future land use map from medium density residential to general commercial, and then we do recommend rezoning the property from R4 to C3 based on those zoning or adjacent zoning. And again, this would be a recommendation to the City Council for the zoning and potentially a determination by the Planning Commission of changing the future land use. Happy to answer any questions you may have, and I believe the applicant is represented here as well.
At the road that crosses Cunningham, it's not marked, is that Pepperell?
Where?
On the diagram, it's showing Cunningham, and there's a road that crosses it right through the middle.
Oh, that's the railroad tracks.
That's a railroad.
Yes, sir. So that diagonal straight line is the railroad, CSX Railroad.
I got confused on looking at the diagram.
It's shown on one of the plans as Western Railway of Alabama.
It's just Cunningham.
Now there is if you look at the map, the vicinity map, there is some old right-of-way there that it looks like south of this property.
Right.
And that's just an unnamed right-of-way that's never been constructed.
Matt, you want to do both of them, or one at a time, or what?
I think you could take them one at a time if you'd like. I would
Okay.
start with probably the future land use.
All right, let's have a public hearing on both.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this item is open for public hearing for the future land use map.
And
If
this again
anyone
would be
wants
going,
to speak,
yeah, this would be going from medium density residential to general commercial.
okay. Public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, we need a motion on the,
Do we make a motion for the city council to approve it?
No, ma'am, this one would be a motion to change the future land use map from
How's this?
Medium density residential to general commercial.
I so move for that, the staff recommendation.
Second.
Was it seconded?
Yes, sir. Mr. McCary.
Any further discussion?
Just a question, is there a potential buyer or user for this land?
Mr. Horn can probably speak to that. I believe he's talked about some large warehouse space on the property. I think with its location, there's probably some limited commercial and residential applicable uses for it because of, it's kind of tight between the railroad tracks and the creek there largely. So I don't know that it'll be easy to get a whole lot of anything in there without doing some earthwork and things like that. But he feels he can get some warehouse space in there potentially.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Now I need a motion on the rezoning.
And this is a recommendation to City Council for rezoning from R4 to C3.
Am I the only one to make these motions?
I don't know, I guess so.
You interrupted. Go ahead.
I move for the rezoning request to recommend a positive
Recommendation.
recommendation to the city council.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, item 10 is a discussion item.
Yes, sir. Item 10 is a request. Ms. Emily Key had come to us to talk about tiny homes and kind of what those are. Okay. And so she wanted, we started looking at some potential regulations or how we might address this through the city ordinances. She wanted to go ahead and address the Planning Commission on this item. And so we told her that she was more than welcome to. And so let me pull this up real quick.
Okay, can you do it in 5 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Emily, I don't see it in here. Is it? Maybe oh, do I have it in upset? Oh, there we go.
Remodels. Okay, well, earlier there were a lot more than that.
Is it under the other one?
I know, they were all there, but I guess. That's something.
Okay.
All right, don't worry about it. Oh, well. If you want to just skip through some of those, you might find it, but I added them this morning. It would be a folder named Tiny Homes, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Good afternoon, guys. I know that took 30 seconds of it. I'm Emily Key with Key Living Solutions. I'm here today to start a conversation about how we as a city are affecting some change with our affordable housing crisis. We all know that there's not enough affordable housing in Opelika. It's been a big discussion, especially in our past mayoral race. I've been saving homes from demolition for the past 8 years. I've been on the 20 under 40 class and learned so much about our city in the past few years, and I'm finally deciding that it's time to really affect more change than I've been able to do in 8 years, one house at a time. Abandoned homes get demolished, and all it does is leave vacant lots in their place. And the more they get demolished, the more vacant lots there are, the grass grows up, no one cuts it, and it becomes a whole other problem all to its own. And I feel that it's time that we find creative ways to use these spaces for the betterment of our communities. American homes have ballooned in size generation by generation. Right now, the approximate square footage is 1,600, and most of the homes being built in Opelika are bigger than that. Our homes in the United States are 600 to 800 square feet larger in comparison to other industrialized countries. Everyone in America has the mentality that bigger is better because that's what we've been taught for so long. I came here today to propose a simple solution to a growing problem. Tiny houses have grown in popularity over the past 20 years as Americans have realized that this American dream that we all chase is not one size fits all. The homes provide all the essentials that you need for life, just in a smaller footprint. Being 200 to 500 square feet, these homes are cheaper to construct and afford. They reduce utility usage. They're easier to maintain. And then they also just create a more sustainable way of living. Multiple homes can be built together on one lot to provide a sense of community that will just abound. They can also just be single homes, filling in the gaps left behind from the history that has been demolished away due to landlords and owners not taking care of their property. Rental prices continue to climb while our wage rates remain level. Our elderly on fixed incomes, our single young professionals, our widows and widowers, and our disabled veterans are all in our high-risk groups for not being able to find affordable housing. I believe that it is time to reconsider our approach to this housing and develop a new zoning ordinance that would not only welcome but embrace tiny living in our city. Bigger does not always mean better, and living tiny does not mean living less. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, no, Sure. Sorry, we just had an issue with microphone there, but, sorry. Yes, sir.
Did she ask for a question?
No, I think she wanted to know if y'all had any questions for her.
That's what I mean. When you say multiple homes on one lot, what are you talking about?
So a lot of times people will try and compare a tiny home village to that of,
Here, let me do this.
sorry. Is it working, Matt?
Give you this one. That should work.
Just hold it.
Yes.
A lot of times people will compare tiny home communities to mobile home parks, and it's a completely different thing. But for the sense of example, you can compare a mobile home park in that way, that there's multiple homes in one general area. But what I'm proposing is more of a community where there's a parking lot similar to apartment complexes. You enter through a community building, a communal area for people to gather, and then on the property have, depending on the size of the property, multiple units of tiny houses, all between 200 and 500 square feet. This has been implemented across our entire country in all sorts of cities. They're not all big cities that are progressive. A lot of them are just small town like us, and we want to be progressive. We want to meet the standard that the rest of our country is setting out, and I believe that this is a great opportunity to do such. I drove to Detroit 2 weeks ago to visit a tiny house community that they have there, and it's amazing to see how happy these people are in a smaller home, because for a lot of people, a small home is something that they never could even have because they don't have any home at all. We have disabled veterans that are living on the streets. We have elderly people that are living in deplorable conditions because that's all that they can afford. And so that's why I think tiny houses can be a solution to this problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I don't have any more questions. John?
Are you talking rental property or, individuals purchasing these homes or what?
Yes, sir. So the big thing right here is that, as I've learned from Matt, nothing in our community, our zoning ordinances allow for anything like this. That's why it would have to be a whole new zone specific for tiny houses. I personally started a nonprofit, and I'm trying to build a tiny house community with the nonprofit for low-income people to have very cheap rent prices that they're renting from the nonprofit. But I also, 6 years ago, built my own tiny house on a trailer. and then found out after I built it that I can't live in it anywhere in Opelika because it's deemed too small, even though it's nicer than any mobile home park, and it's at a luxury tiny house resort now in North Georgia. So the zoning that we would have to design for this needs to include everybody. It needs to include the communities that maybe a nonprofit can come in and build, but it has to include communities that maybe I just want to build it to rent out to people to make money. Or maybe I, as a 22-year-old at the time, wanted to build my own house and take advantage of my skills and learn things to really grasp my future and actually start putting money into my future instead of other people's. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that because it's not allowed here in Opelika.
What is the cost of the tiny home compared to a trailer?
The average cost of a tiny house is going to be around $30,000, and I'm not sure the cost of trailers, but trailers are noticeably lesser quality. They fall apart a lot faster. You do have to construct them with a lot of the same rules as far as the building inspections go, but I really wish that I had my pictures working, because if you imagine any house in Opelika, some of the cutest, most gorgeous houses, just put them through a shrinkerator, and that's a tiny house. They don't have to look anything different. They don't have to look anything less than these awesome houses that we already have. They're just smaller.
All right,
Anybody else?
thank you. Matt, you did explain
So.
about the commissioners, new commissioners and all that.
So based on Ms. Key's desire to look at this, we have started doing a little bit of research on this, and we just haven't had the ability yet to do as much in-depth look as we want to on this. There are a lot of different issues that come forward with these types of discussions about, currently the minimum size for a single-family home in the city of Opelika is 800 square feet, which is sometimes twice as large, maybe 4 times as large as what some of these people desire to live in, or what Ms. Key would like to produce. So we'd have to look at that, where they would be allowed, what type of zoning, if we did allow them, where they would go, whether it be a specific planned zoning, or whether it could be a higher density zoning of some sort in our current ordinance or something that's created. Look at the process, and then we would likely have to approve some additional building codes that go into this, because they do tend to run into issues with conventional building codes in a lot of ways based on size, area. In some cases, they are stick built. In some cases, there are companies that manufacture these like other homes, and so there's a lot of discussion about kind of where they would fall in both our planning, our zoning, and building code requirements. And those are things we've kind of looked at to see what we would have to do to allow these if the Planning Commission and City Council ultimately decided to allow this type of use. And so we've started calling around some other communities, both in the state, to see where they've been allowed and whether they've had that discussion themselves. We've also started looking at other communities outside the state, because there aren't many inside the state of Alabama that currently have these, and so kind of looking at how they're regulated in other cities. And so there's, as many of you are aware, I mean, creating a new zone or creating a new zoning type takes time, and we want to make sure we're deliberate. I know Ms. Key is excited and definitely wants to continue to have the discussion about whether this is something the cities would allow and kind of where. And so we wanted to invite her to speak to it and kind of give her thoughts on it. And I know she had some images she wanted to share, which if she wants to give to us, we can make sure that they are distributed to the commission.
Okay. First of all, you're not on any timetable, I hope.
No, sir, I know things take a
Okay,
long
To
time.
be fair to you, Matt's made some requests to me about where we go from here.
Yes, sir.
What I want to know is, once we do our thing, any discussion about it, I want to make sure you're available to give us some rebuttal about, to answer some of our questions.
Absolutely.
Well, as long as we understand we're not under a timetable, there's some regulations that Matt wants to cover with the city and the commissioners with zoning and how to handle
Yes.
the request. I want to give you a fair opportunity to answer those.
Absolutely. I've researched tiny houses since I was 15, whenever that was, and every city that ends up in this discussion, it always comes down to we are
Because
setting the rules for the future. So we have to take our time doing it.
I just don't want you to get the feeling that you're trying to be put aside.
No, sir.
Okay.
I already own the property, and I have plenty of other houses to be remodeling while I
You know,
wait.
You have to bring it up, and we have to go through certain
Yes, of course.
steps to see what we can and can't do.
Yes, and I would like it to be on the record that I have spoken with Jeff Kappelman already. In the 2018 Building Code, International Building Code, they have already adopted Appendix Q, which is a specific appendix for tiny houses.
Well,
We currently are using 2015, so.
We leave all of that kind of stuff up to the staff.
Right, okay.
We don't get involved with trying to solve those problems. Or yes, sir,
Just a question.
go ahead.
I'm familiar with a little bit of this tiny house,
Yes, sir.
and I know that condos exist in terms of square footage
Mhm.
and smaller apartments. And it seems to me the question always comes back to the ability to own your own piece of property and privacy
Yes,
at
sir.
a reasonable price you can afford.
Yes, sir.
So is the problem privacy or the cost of living in a small home?
The problem is both. Most of my work is on the south side, Bay Court, Jeter area, stuff like that. And you can't have condos over there. There's nowhere to build condos. And so that's the only option, is to have some sort of smaller homes, because people aren't coming in and building bigger homes, especially not that are affordable. And if someone were to rent at a very low cost, $1 a square foot, that gives them the opportunity to save up and be able to achieve a mortgage to get maybe a bigger house if that's their goal. So yes, and the square footage aspect of it, we already have a lot of houses that are under 400 and 500 square feet. They're just duplexes. I've been converting homes into duplexes for years that are each side's about 375 feet, 400 feet, and people love them. And so I'm already doing it, and now I'm just trying to do it on a bigger scale.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That completes the agenda for today. Would someone give me Bam, did you get your question answered?
I think this may be what she wanted to listen about.
Come back to the podium then, or come up and tell us what you want. Now, keep up with it again.
I'm sorry, but this is the project that I was talking about, that when I came up the first time.
Take it
about
off.
Tiny houses.
Matt, asked her to step back and remove that mask, because I can't understand the words you say.
Okay,
Can you hold this and speak?
okay.
And state your
Okay.
name, please.
Okay, my name is Dorothy Stringer again. I came up here earlier speaking, I couldn't think of the person's name right then, but when I went back there, I could think of the Keith. Okay, the tiny houses. That's when I came up here the first time. That's the project that I'm concerned about, and people in our neighborhood are concerned about. Okay, the Jeter area. You mentioned the Jeter area and the south side, you said?
I'm trying to build them on Bay Court.
On Bay Court? And over in the Jeter area?
I've spoken with Reverend Jones about possibly doing some stuff back on that property, but I'm not moving like that. That was a brief blip of a conversation.
Okay. Well, we have some concern about it because in the Jeter area, it has always been rundown houses. Always been houses that need fixing up because the landlord did not keep her houses up. And I think we're kind of tired of that in our area. And if houses be built in our area, we would like maybe affordable housing, but decent affordable housing. We just don't want anything put in our area because this area has been run down so long. And it's time now to upgrade the area to look like something. And we just don't want any kind of little, something put in our area. I understand that people want, affordable housing, but we want decent affordable housing in our area.
Ms. Stringer, what we'll do is, if you'd like to continue the conversation with Ms. Key, that's fine. We can put you on a list and contact you if this comes back up again, because this is not, it's not up for any real debate today. We're just, she wanted to kind of introduce the opinion and so, or the idea, and so as we move forward with any sort of discussion on this, we can make sure that we keep you in the loop so that you know when there's any discussion or review of this type of regulation.
Okay,
Man,
I understand.
Just make sure that she doesn't have to get it out of the paper, or
Yes, sir.
y'all get her name and telephone number
Right.
and get in touch with
And
her.
I'm not the only one in the area that's concerned about this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please do.
Yes, ma'am.
Keep
We'll
me
get your
informed.
contact information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting for today. I'd like a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion with adjourn.
Who's gonna second? Motion approved. Let's go.